Lawyers in the suit filed by Mr. Ifeanyi Odi challenging the decision of the Court of Appeal, Abuja Division, which declared Senator Obinna Ogba as the governorship candidate for the People's Democratic Party in next year's election, are at the Supreme Court calmly waiting for the pronouncement of the justices. The five-man panel of justices, led by Justice Amina Augi, arrive and commence the business of the day. Justice Mohammed Garba, who reads the lead judgment, holds that Senator Joseph Ogba did not have the right of appeal because he was not a part of the suit when the matter came up at the trial court in Abakaliki, Ebonyi State, and was not given leave to do so, and as such deprived the appellate court right of jurisdiction. The Apex Court further held that the appellate court ought not to have entertained the case because Mr. Ogba did not obtain leave of court before filing his appeal at the appellate court. Ifeanyi Odi was elected the party's governorship candidate during a council primary held between May the 28th and 29th this year. Later, at a rescheduled primary held on June the 4th and 5th this year as well, Senator Ogba was declared winner, and Mr. Odi approached the Federal High Court sitting in Abakaliki, which overturned Mr. Ogba's candidature. This move necessitated Senator Ogba approaching the Court of Appeal, which ruled in his favor, declaring him the winner. Sounds of excitement and jubilation rent the air shortly after the judgment is read.
Two things stand out very clearly. One, a political party cannot, after holding a concluded primary election, cancel on its own that primary election and order a fresh one. That is usurping the powers of the court. Then secondly, in pre-election matters, if you are not a party to the case, before you can appeal against a decision therefrom, you must obtain leave of the court.
Today's judgment, however, makes Mr. Ifeanyi Odi the authentic candidate of the People's Democratic Party for the Ebonyi State governorship polls. In the coming months, it will be interesting to see how the PDP in Ebonyi State embraces this judgment and puts its house together as its new candidate, Mr. Odi, gets set to face candidates of other parties in the 2023 elections.
Well, yeah, there you go. That is the development at the moment. But I did tell you that you were going to see Markwe as well as we progress. But guess what? Well, she is also here this morning. Markwe, good morning.
Good morning, Chamberlain. And good morning to the crew in Lagos and, of course, to our esteemed viewers. Buki, I promise I was not spying on your dress code this morning when I got dressed, but it's certainly good to see that we're both in the mood of turquoise blue.
So no memo in question this time around?
No memo in question.
Okay. Well, Silas joins us here. He is a member of the People's Democratic Party in Ebonyi State. He's a legal practitioner. And, you remember there were some court matters about the chairmanship position of that party, which we'll go on to in a moment. Good morning, first of all. Thank you for coming on here today.
Welcome back, Markwe. It's been a while.
It has been, indeed. It looks like you're in a very exuberant mood this morning.
Yeah, I've always been. Never lost this excitement for a day.
Okay. Well,
Just been dragged for necessary
There's
reasons.
only so much that 2 minute or less report can give us. I mean, it's definitely several things will be left out of that. So if you can just give us some sort of background to this particular matter.
Well, it all started with the primaries election of May 28th and 29th this year, when party scheduled, PDP, scheduled House of Assembly and National Assembly elections for Saturday, the 28th of May, and then the governorship primary election for Sunday, the 29th of May. While the primaries of 28th was concluded, on Sunday, the primaries of the governorship primaries was ongoing and transmitted live. We saw a press release by the National Publicity Secretary that the primaries has been cancelled. And we reached out to know if the National Working Committee held any meeting, because we knew that 28th was the National Convention date, and 29th, they were all tired and people were sleeping. They couldn't have had any meeting on that day. So we disregarded the press release and continued our primaries. And I was chairman then before the Court of Appeal decision. So we continued the primaries.
So I think at that time he had said that if there was going to be a release, there was supposed to be a meeting of the executive or something before that release would be issued, as opposed to just one person issuing a release or something like that.
Yeah. That was the point I made, that the publicity secretary cannot cancel primaries. It has to be the decision of the National Working Committee or NEC. And there are reasons for cancellation of primaries, one of which is that there was violence at the primaries. So there was no violence. It was peaceful, transmitted live from beginning to the end. A return was made by the panel sent. That results was sent back to the National Working Committee as a report. They received it. Then the other group within the party had also gathered themselves somewhere, but didn't do anything, and then relied on the cancellation, saying, wow, it's been cancelled, we will do another primaries. So because of the threat of a repeat primaries, the winner of that election went to court and filed an action challenging the powers of the party to cancel a primaries that has already been concluded and rights have been created. He's now a candidate. So he was not challenging any other candidate. He was challenging the PDP because INEC monitored the election. So he also joined INEC for purposes of transparency. Now you were there. We did this election. It was transparent. I won. And this was the result. So he went to court, and the court heard his case. While the case was pending, the party issued a letter saying they have cancelled the primaries,
which the courts usually don't like.
Good. And while the case was pending, the party fixed 4th and 5th of June for another primaries. So the lawyer of the candidate complained to the court. Now look at what the party is doing. The court said, okay, leave them, let them do. If they are aware of this case, let them do what they want. It will be null and void because they are aware of this case. So let me give you a context. While the case started on the first day, Senator Obinna sent a lawyer. Now, I'd like to say that the lawyer tried to be smart, thinking he could drag the case with an application for joinder. But we had applied and obtained abridgment of time so that things can be done expeditiously. And the court granted it. So this lawyer came and said they want to be joined. And the judge said, okay, go and file your processes before they adjourned it. And I will hear the case on this adjourned date, which was 7th of June. So on the 7th of June, we came back. That lawyer didn't file anything and was seeking a further adjournment to the next day, 8th, so that he can file his processes. And the judge said, we cannot wait for you. I can't even hear you because you're not in this case. You've not filed anything. So I can't even hear you, which is correct. And proceeded to hear the case and gave judgment on the same day. And this guy went and filed application for joinder after judgment had been given. So they now appealed as interested parties, that is, persons interested in the election. Having filed notice of appeal, they also applied for leave to appeal that decision of the trial court since they were not joined. Now, the Court of Appeal fixed a date to hear that appeal.
Not the one that ordered the retrial?
No. There were two cases. I'll take you there. No, before the retrial issue, it's the same case that ordered retrial, but they were to hear the application for leave. And the justices of the Court of Appeal had to move from Abuja to Enugu to hear that application and granted it. Immediately, that application was granted. We filed an action saying it was granted out of time because the Supreme Court has ruled severally that the 14 days within which you can challenge action of a trial court on appeal include where you need to seek leave include the seeking of leave and filing of the notice of appeal. So you must do all within 14 days. So the leave was granted on the 15th day. So realizing that their leave was granted out of time and it would be incompetent, they abandoned, and the leave ordered them to file a notice of appeal within 48 hours. So they filed a notice of appeal. But remember, they had filed one on 17th without leave. So when they filed their brief in that case, they now elected to rely on the earlier notice of appeal they filed without leave of court on 17th and abandoned the one granted them by court because they have seen that it's out of time. So they now argued that being a pre-election matter, constitutional provision in section 243, which requires leave, and which is the foundation of right of appeal. That is the section that grants you section 241, 242, 243 of the Constitution grants the right of appeal.
All right.
So they went and argued that those sections do not apply in pre-election, only section 285 does. Now what section 285 does is more or less like rules, giving you time within which to do what you need to do, and who, and also defining what pre-election is and who can challenge a pre-election case, who can go to court. And what you have in section 84:14 of the Electoral Act is basically drawn from section 285 of the Constitution. So the Court of Appeal, disregarding their own latest judgment in that regard, which says you need leave, agreed that the trial court did not grant Senator Ogba the right to, or the opportunity to be heard.
Is that what the Supreme Court tried to correct on this judgment, saying they did not get the leave of court? That was cases?
Basically, they said you don't need leave as a pre-election. Court of Appeal said you don't need leave of court. So it's like approving an all-comers affair. You can just sit in your house and you hear that the judgment is given, you just go to Court of Appeal.
Is this...
Anybody.
What does this then mean? Because I know that you equally had the matter concerning the chairmanship position. Does this put paid to that particular case? If you continue with that case, isn't that going to perhaps affect the party moving forward?
No. It won't. Ordinarily, I've never been desperate about being party chairman. It was the way the Congress was conducted that I had issues with. And you remember we spoke that day. I do not like situations where people impose candidates or aspirants on others. If you let the process run and I lose, I will accept it. So I didn't like the way some people, the role they played. And that was why I challenged the election. And I won at the trial court. At the appellate court, I started seeing signs of things being wrong when the Court of Appeal granted stay of execution. Now, you don't grant stay of execution in a declaratory judgment. Even a law school student knows that.
So that's why you lashed out at the judiciary, saying there were question marks about
it. I didn't lash out. I wrote a complaint against the panel to the president of the Court of Appeal.
You petitioned?
And the president required that the panel be changed. And I didn't know that that offended the presiding judge of the Abuja division because he was presiding the other panel. Until a day in an open court, when he saw my matter and he started shouting, complaining. And people called me and said, what did you do to this man? They said, he will deal with you, blah, 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 you know. So that aside, I do not agree with the decision of the Court of Appeal in my chairmanship case, just in the interest of correcting our jurisprudence. I will appeal that case. But everyone knows that the duty of a state party chairman are basically done with.
But at the moment now,
I don't really have anything to do there anymore. I don't need it.
Now that this Supreme Court decision has gone the way of Ifeanyi Odi, and you know that the man who sits there now as the chairman was sympathetic, as you say, to Senator Ogba, but he was here and he said, look, he's got nothing against anybody. Whichever way the judgment goes, which he has now, he is willing to work with everybody else. So if you insist that he needs to be ousted, he needs to leave that seat, Isn't that going to perhaps raise some sort of bad blood, saying, look, if Senator Ogba has lost at this level, and at this level, you should be able to concede certain ground such that everybody can pull together as a party, having a common ground to move forward?
Like I said, I do not pursue my appeal for personal interests. It is to correct the jurisprudence. It is wrong to say that when you're wronged, because it's a political party that wronged you, you can't have a remedy. It is dangerous. The foundation of justice is ubi jus, ibi remedium. Where there is a wrong, there is a remedy. So you cannot say that because a political party did the wrong, there can be no remedy at all.
So how's
it is wrong. Okay. So, and that is what I want the Supreme Court to correct. And if the Supreme Court corrects it, if Tochukwu wants to continue as chairman, I can let him continue. So long as that principle is corrected, just like the one yesterday. If we had left, you know, your report said that the Court of Appeal declared Obinna Ogba winner. That never happened. But that was the impression created when the court allowed his appeal and ordered retrial, which also was an abnormal. You allow appeal and order retrial. It's abnormal. You should have granted his prayers if you allowed the appeal. You know? So sometimes these things happen. For me...
Is that something that the legal profession will actually look at if you allow appeal? Because if you allow appeal, it suggests that the case succeeds.
Yes.
But if in the same breath, you order a retrial.
So if you were going to order a retrial, you should have focused on denial of rights and just order retrial.
So on two, I'm looking at this matter, and from what I can see, it looks like they're two separate grounds. I think your report pointed to the fact that, in the last part, about how your party is going to pull together. Because we know that court cases do not exactly unite parties. It divides them, and it makes hardliners of people. So it'll be interesting to see just how your party pulls together as a result of this judgment. That's one. I think that's also flowing from Chamberlain's question. The second for me is that was this case faulted mostly on the ground of technicality? Was the matter of the case about whether or not a party could actually stop or cancel primaries if it so wishes? Was it really attended to? Because what it seems the Supreme Court said was that the parties, I mean, those who had sought leave, the appeal court, first of all, had no jurisdiction, and as such, could not have entertained the case. And it looks like Mr. Senator Ogba did not have leave of court, did not have the leave of the trial court to go and file his appeal. This sounds to many people like technicalities.
Technicalities.
Yes.
Well, firstly, on the issue of uniting the party, PDP in Ebonyi State is one big family. And like in any other big family, you always have internal wranglings. What transpired from the primaries up till yesterday was a struggle, all in the interests of the party and Ebonyi State. Both sides wanted they have something to offer the people of Ebonyi State, and each side felt they could do a better job. So it was all in the interest of Ebonyi State that we were in the trenches. Now we have gotten a part. I do believe that without much pressure or even asking too much, all other interests within the party will come together and we will face our common opponent and give Ebonyi people the government they desire that will bring about economic liberation in the state.
That's not going to happen by fiat. I mean,
no, it's not by fiat.
The judgment of the Supreme Court did not mandate that.
No. What I'm trying to say is that all of the struggle all along was just for the leadership. Everybody will come back. No Ebonyian will go and support APC today.
How do you know that?
They won't. We know ourselves. If any of us will go and do APC, we would have moved and aligned a long time ago.
I guess we
would have moved and made alliances a long time ago. So we will come back together. We will move as a family, and we will take back our state and make it prosperous.
Mr. Ono, I really want to share your optimism, but if there's anything we know of politics, it is that it's not over until it's over. And that sometimes some people feel bad enough
this issue is over.
And bitter enough that instead of, you know, this person having it, I'd rather give it to somebody else who's not a part of the family.
I don't see that happening in Ebonyi State. The reason is I'm in there and I know what is happening. And even while this is going on, it's not like we don't talk to each other. We talk to each other. We still interact. We remain friends while all of this was going on. And then secondly, whether this judgment was a technical decision. No, the judgment was all-encompassing. In fact, I was so impressed with how the Supreme Court justices relied more on the trial decision, commending the trial judge for how he handled the case. And they also observed the fact that the application for joinder was filed on the same day the judgment was given, which is wrong. There was no way it would be in the judge's file. There was no way you could have made that application on the same day and the judge will see it and deny you.
Of technicality.
No, it's not technicality. He was not a party to the trial. That was all the court said from the beginning. And one of the justices made a very key observation, that the case was basically against the party, not against Senator Ogba. It was basically against the party. And the justice observed that how can a party that conducted election on the results sheet was the chairman of the national secretary, the national chairman, national organizing secretary, and the electoral officers that conducted the election, and then turn around without more to say you have cancelled the election because those who conducted it had no quorum, without stating what quorum was needed and what quorum was used. You didn't say that because you needed to have so number of people and you had less, you didn't have quorum. The letter was just general and baseless. And the Supreme Court said that would not be allowed. That once a political party conducts a primary and the result is in, it cannot cancel it. Canceling it means usurping the powers of the court. And a political party cannot complain under our laws that the election did not hold according to guidelines or the Electoral Act.
This is his own internal elections.
No. The law is clear. The person who can complain is an aspirant, not political party. Political party should be neutral to all its members. It should be neutral. So it is an aspirant. If there is non-adherence to guideline or Electoral Act or the Constitution of this country, everyone who participated would see it. An aspirant would see it. The aspirant should complain to the party. The party cannot be a judge in its own cause. There was no complaint. And in any case, there was a second judgment that came from the Court of Appeal on the 19th of July. A similar matter between Obinna and the same Odi, wherein the Court of Appeal said Odi didn't have locus to challenge the primaries of 5th of June, because participation is not just a name, but actual participation means you have to be physically present during the primary election, and he wasn't there on the 5th. He did his own on 29th. Following that reasoning, Obinna also have no right to be joined in the case regarding primaries of 29th of May, because he did not participate in that primaries. He stayed away. So this whole decision of the Supreme Court yesterday really addressed a lot of issues that have been...
Well, within the judiciary?
Even for political parties. The day they purportedly canceled the primaries, I wrote on my Facebook and I said, there was a Court of Appeal decision that said, I think APC and one local, that said once a party has conducted a primary, it cannot cancel it. But nobody paid attention to it.
Your party didn't listen to it?
Nobody paid attention to it.
So how's your party taking this now?
Well, the party really, as events progress, the party did do their best to be neutral. The party tried to see how both sides could work together. The national chairman convened several meetings. But since the matters were already in court, there was very little he could do. So we had to let the judicial process run their course. And by the grace of God, all other cases pending in respect of the same primary of 28th and 29th of May and 4th and 5th of June have finally been put to rest by the Supreme Court decision of yesterday, because the court was emphatic when they said the primary election of 29 was valid. The winner is the candidate. That was a very emphatic statement. So it follows without more that 28 and 29 are valid. So 4th and 5th is invalid.
Well, who knows? Well, I guess we'll wait and see what happens. But, you know, moving forward, it remains to be seen how all of this will happen at that governorship level, because you have other candidates who people in the state also consider very formidable. They have former secretary to the government in the state who they're looking to. So it's not going to be a stroll in the park, as you may have suggested. But again, your party, your candidate has won this one. So I guess it's the party will have to find a way to pull together and proceed.
Can I say a word or two?
Well, you already said you're already optimistic that you're going to win.
Yeah,
so,
I don't look down on anybody in politics. So I would not discount or discountenance any of the candidates of other political parties.
All right.
So, but I want to tell you today, you can take this to the bank. Ebonyi State is a PDP state. Nobody will say otherwise.
Well, the
Ebonyi
voters,
is a PDP state.
The voters ultimately have the final say.
And that is why you saw the tussle for the ticket of Ebonyi State. As I speak to you now, we've achieved more than 50% of what we need.
All right,
to win the ticket.
We have to go.
What is left for us
even
now?
Though the ruling party is not PDP in the state at the moment.
It's PDP. He changed party. He never won election with APC. Well, now, we're just going to dance to our victory. Because the people already know what we have to offer.
We have to thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much.
We're back in a moment. Stay with us.